He's been the focus of the entire week of coverage around this game, but Utah will be without a key piece of their offense on Thursday night when the Gators come into town. In fact, they may be without two key pieces. Cam Rising is not expected to start against the Florida Gators tomorrow night, per Joshua Newman, who covers the team out in Salt Lake City. According to his sources, there is the expectation at this point that Bryson Barnes will start the opener against Florida. This is massive news for the Florida Gators, as they need nothing more than to get off to a good start in Salt Lake City. Now, I want to preface this. I am not celebrating this news. I wanted Rising to be able to play. First of all, I wanted to know how good of a team that we have right off the bat. Two, I was confident that we could win with or without Rising. So you always want to go against the best competition you can, right? Number three, I never, ever cheer for a kid to be hurt. And number four, it really sucks for Cam that he can't play in what would be sort of a revenge game for him against UF. So we are not celebrating this, but it is obviously a huge benefit for the Gators. So let's talk about what that means. Utah is not only one-dimensional with a much less experienced passer back there for the Utes, but they're losing a huge weapon as well. Rising had 91 rushing yards on 7 attempts last year against UF. So who's going to start in his place? Well, Bryson Barnes. He has played in 13 games in his career, which honestly isn't the worst for a third-string quarterback. He won't be the only quarterback to play. It sounds like Nate Johnson will make some appearances as well. We're going to chat about both of these guys in just a moment. But if you're hyped up for this Utah game, do me a favor and smash that subscribe button. If you're already subscribed, shoot me a comment letting me know where you will be watching the game tomorrow. All right, so let's talk about the two quarterbacks you probably are going to see on Thursday night. We think that Bryson Barnes will be who gets the start. We already talked about the fact that he has made appearances in 13 games, and, that's not bad. At least he's got some experience. There was an offseason camp injury to Brandon Rose, who was quarterback number 2. So that is kind of what thrust Bryson Barnes into the spotlight here. He will be the starting quarterback. He is a former walk-on who joined the team in 2020. He did receive a scholarship in the past year, which, obviously this team has relied on him, at least some in the past, including a victory last season that he actually started in. He was an unranked high school prospect on 24/7 and on 3. His best performance was probably in the Rose Bowl last year. He took over for Cam Rising when he did tear his ACL. He was 10 for 19, 112 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So, for kind of being thrown out there with an emotional injury to your starting quarterback, those are, some decent numbers, especially given the size of the stage at the Rose Bowl. He, like I said, has appeared in 13 games, most of which was just mop-up duty for Rising. Let's talk a little bit about his career stats. He has a 66.1% completion average. That he is 39 of 59. He's got 5 TDs in his career, 2 interceptions. He's averaging about 7.68 yards per attempt. Mentioned a minute ago, he did get his first career start versus Washington State. That was in late October of last year. And he won. So, that should be something that the Utes are being optimistic about. He's a capable runner. He has done a few design QB runs in the past. It's something that he is able to do, however, not to, Rising's ability, I would say. He has threaded the needle before as well. He can throw a great pass when given time and the opportunity. So this is my personal opinion on Bryson Barnes. It seems like he's the definition of a college backup quarterback. He shows flashes of being good to great. He's not a bad quarterback, but he's not going to be as accurate or as big time of a playmaker as Cam Rising. He's just not. But he is a capable, a serviceable fill-in for Rising. Rising could be the difference maker for Utah. I don't see Bryson Barnes being the difference maker for Utah, but I do think that Utah has enough weapons around them that if Bryson Barnes can be a good game manager, they are still going to give the Gators some major problems. The Utes just aren't going to be able to rely on Bryson Barnes to win them the game like they could if Cam Rising was starting. But he's probably not going to be the only quarterback we're going to see. We have heard that we'll also see some of Nate Johnson. He played in 4 games. He's recorded 1 completion, but it was for a 16-yard touchdown. He's also rushed 5 times for 51 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he is a great change of pace quarterback for them. In his debut against Arizona, he rushed 3 times for 23 yards and those 2 touchdowns. He completed a 16-yard passing touchdown versus Stanford, and in that same game added a career-long 21-yard rush. He recorded a 7-yard rush and his first career catch, which was 5 yards, versus USC in the Pac-12 championship. So he has made limited plays, but the plays that he's made have been impactful for Utah, and they've been against tough competition. USC and Stanford, Arizona, these are not these are major Power 5 schools. These are programs that Utah is in close games with routinely. They're definitely not, McNeese State. Nate Johnson has electric speed. I would not be surprised if we see him a ton for Utah on Thursday night. They want to be able to utilize some QB runs, and Johnson probably gives them the best bet to gain positive yardage in that. So I think there's a great chance that we see a little bit more of like a 2-headed monster if it really is the case that Cam Rising can't go on Thursday night. We spoke with Porter Larson of ESPN about what would happen if Barnes had to start. So I want you to hear his thoughts in case you weren't tuned in last night.
And it's a topic of conversation because the Utes offense changes dramatically when we look at who's going to be out there on the field.
Well, first of all, I think Gator fans feel your pain because I'm pretty sure that Kyle Whittingham actually took that page out of Urban Meyer's playbook when he moved to Florida, because that's definitely an Urban Meyer rule as well. Okay, so let's say Cam Rising doesn't go. How confident are the Utes in Bryson Barnes?
That's a good question, because Bryson, he's come in and been a serviceable quarterback, right? He's had a win under his belt. He came in during Rose Bowl action and produced, but there's also been a lot of times where you see the ceiling, right? You definitely see that there is an abbreviated playbook when it is Bryson Barnes rather than Cam Rising or the quarterback before Cam with Tyler Huntley. It's noticeable, right? I think he's comfortable with the playbook. The players around him are confident in being able to run the offense, but you're not going to get the impromptu, off-the-cuff plays that you get from Cam Rising. And frankly, that changes Utah's offense in a huge way. So I don't know how they're confident that he can get out there and be serviceable, but when you're going against a defense coming from the SEC, you might have to do more than that. So, I think that this game really does probably hinge on who is at the quarterback position for Utah.
This probably raises the stakes a little bit for the Gators in this game. The expectations are always going to be to win, but the outlook on this season is going to get a little more dim if the Gators go out and lose with Utah playing their 3rd-string quarterback. Utah's really good tight end, Brant Kuithe, also seems like he is going to be out for the Utes as well. He had a huge game against UF last year, 9 receptions, 105 yards, and a touchdown. UF's pass rush has a really good opportunity to get after a quarterback with less experience who is less mobile. They had 0 sacks in last year's game. Cam was pretty good at escaping that rush when it was there, but I would anticipate that UF is able to get after Barnes much more than they were last year for Rising. UF's secondary should also benefit. This isn't a shot at Barnes, but obviously Rising has a different level of accuracy and talent. There are some new pieces back there for the Gators, but the Austin Armstrong defense is getting to start with a bit of a leg up. The aggressiveness is now very much going to be something that could pay huge dividends for the Gators. The quarterback battle of Barnes versus Mertz is something that Gator fans should be confident that we've got a good chance to win. Again, I hope Cam Rising and Brent Keithy are able to get back out there as soon as possible. In fact, I'd love for this report to be wrong and for both of them to be able to play. But UF needs to capitalize here. I've always thought that the timeline for Rising was very aggressive. Maybe Kyle Whittingham saw our preview show last night where we talked about how the UF game really didn't mean a whole lot for Utah's season and the outlook for the Pac-12. If you want to get caught up on that as well, click right here.